Hey guys, welcome back to my workbench. This is Dan here as always. In today's video we're going to be doing an update on all the projects that I've completed thus far this month. So far we've already blasted through January and I'm really scratching my head how we already got this far, but I guess when you're having fun, time flies is what they say. So I got a bunch of projects that I've gotten caught up for you guys. I apologize that I haven't been able to crank out any new weathering videos. I do still have a number of videos pretty much finished and they're in kind of editing stages right now, and I got to do some voiceovers and things like that because quite frankly I like that style of video format. So I'm going to keep working on those and hopefully we'll get some uploads here this next month. Probably February I should have like 1 or 2 videos, and then I want to do another interesting video, maybe some like kind of smaller how-to videos. One of my big plans coming up is to showcase specific techniques, just like simple washes, oil and acrylic washes. You know, I weather a lot of cars and a lot of times I'm using these same techniques over and over again, and for me it just feels like an extension of my body at that point. It's so easy, it's so simple, even some of these more complex cars that I do. But there's a lot of modelers who don't know how to do those basics, and I've shown them in videos, but at this point my video archive is so extensive and I haven't had time to make playlists really showcasing specific techniques, and I try to go and help a lot of these newcomers like the younger kids and some of the older guys who are in the hobby wanting to learn how to weather. And I'm trying to go through my own videos and I'm trying to like find, okay, where did I archive this technique and this technique? So I really need to stop procrastinating, make dedicated videos on acrylic and oil washes, rust streaking, rust pitting, and some other video techniques, really showcasing that. And we can do a rehashing on trucks and wheels if that's something you guys would be interested in too. I know a lot of people still ask me about that, and it's one of those things I hesitate to show in a lot of my videos because after a while it gets so repetitive. But we'll circle back to those hopefully this month. I can get 1 or 2 videos out where I can start showcasing smaller techniques, little bits for you guys to bite into, chew on a little bit, and kind of digest and learn. And you can go back to it, watch over and over again while, let's say, you're practicing on one of your models or something. And it doesn't even have to be models you can practice on. I'll show you some techniques on styrene sheet, of all things, that you can use to actually practice on. But all that will come later on. I just want to get you guys updated there. Let's talk about projects. So far this month I've been working on a hopper fleet, and what else have I been doing? I've been trying to collect a fleet of hoppers, do some custom paint jobs, some oddball cars like that, and other than that I haven't really been doing anything else. I do have some other cars coming, and I do have a coil car that I'll show you guys, but other than that this video is going to mostly be hoppers, but there are going to be some very interesting prototypes that I wanted to show you guys, some rather unique cars. So let's go ahead and point the camera at the workbench and we'll get started on this exciting video. Let's go. So the first 2 cars here are not my own models. These were actually weathered in a trade for some brass rolling stock that I acquired. This first car here is an Exactrail Coil Shield, the very famous Conrail cars that were around in the late 90s and early 2000s, and many of them are still in service today. This one is patched for New York Central, as you can see, and this one represents one of the early cars, kind of in that transitional period between the 90s and the 2000s for CSX, right when they were really fully finishing painting most of the fleet into YN2, and even some engines into YN3 at that point. So we models early CSX, maybe even like late 90s era. So I kept this one without safety stripes. I just did a nice subtle light wash to kind of just lightly fade it and tone it down. Did the base effects of some rust pitting and chipping on the top. Lots of kick up and grime on the ends, for example, if I can get a shot here. Not much of a surface to actually work on. What you really see is the kick up spray up onto the deck portion of the car, and you get a lot of this splatter, for example. That's really what you see on these cars. And same thing on this end here, on the brake end. You can see some of that splatter just starting to work up the top of the deck. And in terms of the rust and things, you can see there's just a little bit of rust kind of forming around like bolt details and things like that. Lots of grime on the sill, nicely weathered trucks, couplers, everything like that. And then the New York Central patches are just custom decals. It's just trim film decals with highball graphics, or I keep saying highball graphics. It's smokebox graphics. Helvetica font decals. These are really wonderful for doing these road reporting marks. This next car here is the other car that I did, and this is a late 90s era modeled 4750 here. Not something I normally would do, but an interesting break, an interesting change from the norm. This one is a former MFA Grain Corporation car. This one has the 2-tone stripes, and a lot of these are gone now. A lot of them that even might still be around have been repainted or heavily repatched, so they're pretty rare cars in that regard. But I modeled this one kind of in the late 90s era, so it's got a lot of that rust at this point. You can see the placards nicely beat up, lots of rust in the placards. Faded down the stripes quite extensively, faded down the car body, all the black, everything like that. Put a lot of rust pitting, scraping, and scratching. Kept the PTLX reporting mark a number because a lot of these still stayed in the PTLX number series and didn't get patched. Even a number of them today, PTLX owned cars still are PTLX owned, which is interesting. But a lot of these are going to start getting scrapped. Most of them already have been getting scrapped because most of these are coming up on their due dates. Anyways, lots of rust on the top, around the hatch. Rusted up the hatch little brackets there, the hatch brackets, little hinges. For example, the rust on the walkways is all done with lots of chipping effects and things of that sort. My usual fun effect. This side is a little bit heavier in terms of rust pitting, especially on the placard. You can see the placards are completely ground away, almost completely faded away with just some remnants of that, but yet the stripes are still mostly intact, which is interesting. I thought that was unique. And I did this based on some prototype photos of several different cars. This one has, again, the PTLX reporting mark, lots of rust pitting, scraping, scratches, and heavy fading, lots of nice fine rust bleeding down the sides, kick up and everything on the underbody, on the ends, as you can see, and then all the nice grime, oil, and powder work on the base of the car. So these guys are going to be getting packed up and they're going to be going back to Pennsylvania, and pretty much done with those. This was kind of an interesting break from what I normally do, so I thought I would show these in this video. These next two cars are both brand new Scale Trains Pullman standard plastic pellet cars. These just came out a couple months ago. It was right before Christmas these came out, and I ended up getting two of them. One is a PLCX car, and one is a custom AEX patched car. The first one here is the PLCX 43786, pretty much bone stock from the factory. All I did to this one was a light fade, a little bit of grime on the underbays, weathered up the bays, the trucks, the couplers, did a little bit of kick up, added the safety striping to the ends there. On the sides as well. It's got them raised up on the sides for some reason. It's kind of interesting. And then I did a nice light dust weathering kind of on the roof there. As you can see, it's just a little bit of grime that builds up on that anti-skid coating that's on these hatches. It builds up around the hatches there. And then, as you can see again on this end, you can see some of that splatter just working up, and even some of it's pretty much migrated to the top slope there. These cars are really nicely detailed from Scale Trains. However, one thing that's annoying with them is that these grab irons in the sides are very easy to pop out. As you can see, just picking that car out, the one came out, which is annoying. Let's see if we can get that back in. Just something you got to kind of be careful of on these. Those grab irons are very delicate and they will pop out on you and then you will lose them. So be careful if you're going to get some of these. But anyways, very nice cars, very nicely detailed. Very simple light weathering here, as you can see. Kept it very clean. The second one is the AEX. This is the fun one. And I actually got custom decals made for this particular version, as you can see. I had Circus City Decals make me the latest AEX road font patchwork and a nice large decal sheet, and I patched this car to AEX, because I see a number of these in AEX. And a number of these run on various short lines in Michigan, too. Service various plastic pellet plants. Now, something interesting I want to show you guys on this, indicating that this was not an original AEX car, it was patched. You'll notice very closely the old numbers scraped off the car body side. I thought that was a unique touch. I decided to leave parts of those decals there to make it look like they had been peeled off. Just a unique touch, another thing that adds a little bit more flavor. You know, something simple to the sides, and there's that nice patchwork again. Other than that, grime on the underbays, trucks, underbody. You got all the nice detailing highlighted by the kick-up, custom patchwork. And then on this end here as well, same thing. Opposite side, same effect. Lots of that patching, safety striping is added, and again you get a lot of that grime on the anti-skid coating around those hatches. Very nice cars by Scale Trains. This next car here is an AEX cylindrical covered hopper, and this is another one I just recently completed using the brand new decals I got from Circus City Graphics. He made me this AEX road font patch. This is a custom painted gray Intermountain covered hopper, so it's got the modern hatches, for example. Nice modern hatches. Those are painted white there on this car. This is a grain service car, so it's got some light rust pitting, scratches, gouges, lots of rust running down from the little rockway supports. Custom decals and custom patching done There's the patching on the side with the AEX reporting marks peeling off, as you can see. I added the tack boards there, lots of grime on the under parts of the car, kind of bleeding up onto the ends there. There's the custom patching. Very nice. And then on this side here, we got a little bit of graffiti, custom graffiti, decals and all the nice stuff added there. This has the decal patching again, just starting to peel off, making it look like it's kind of eroding away a little bit. New data, lots of little tags, fine things like that. Lots of dust on the trucks, on the underbays, lots of pitting from the hammer and impacts. Kick up there as well. And then on the top, there's a lot of fresh rust, a lot of old rust mixed together here. As you can see, lock bars are nicely rusted up. The hinges, of course, but the hatch itself is just fiberglass, so these just get kind of grimy and dusty looking. So I just really focused on all the metal parts on this in particular, as you can see. And there's just some fine little rust streaks and things like that done with a very fine Atlas 10.0 brush. This car overall is one of my favorite cylindricals right now, and another new standard of car for this type of car anyway. I want to make more of these and have this standard of weathering and accuracy to them, because a lot of my cylindricals in the past have been lacking, and I really want to have a better fleet of cylindrical cars for my collection. And this is one of the first ones trying out some different techniques and some different effects, and I'm very pleased with it. Now bringing in a very interesting 3-bay covered hopper. This is the rust bucket, or at least one of the rust buckets that you're going to see in this video. This is a car I just recently saw. I mean, I say recently, probably about 3 months ago. This is AEX 242. It's a former Cotton built covered hopper here, as you can see, a smaller covered hopper. This one was on a CSX Manifest heading towards Toledo, and I photographed it and took video of it to get reference for the sides. And you can look up photos of this real car. What I did to this one first is I acquired an Intermountain Cotton built covered hopper. I did the custom bled patching. As you can see on this side, you can actually see some of the lettering still bleeding through the sides there. And you can also see the AEX reporting mark and number. The old data mixed with the new, kind of patched over there. Safety striping added, lots of rust pits, lots of gouging and scraping on the sides. This is an old grain car now used in quick lime service. I added the tack boards, all the nice details there. Custom patching. A lot of fading to the sides first, and then a lot of rust buildup, as you can see. I added the ACI label, new data there, as you can see. And then for the rust on the sides, it's very similar to the AEX 4600 I did recently in the last update video, actually, where you start by building the rust tones up with an airbrush, then you bleed some of the rust down with oil washes, and then hand paint a lot of your rust streaks and things like that until you're satisfied with the rust. And even then, in this case, some of the rust still looks a little chunky, but the prototype has this exact type of rust, and even more so in the latest photo. There's a lot more rust on this when I saw it compared to the prototype photos, is what I'm trying to say. So I really weathered this thing with a couple years added to it, if that makes sense. So I really tried to weather it even more. Lots of oil rendering for the rust streaking and everything like that on the sides. And then you can see there's a lot of quick lime, dusty powder just sprinkled all over the top, all around the hatches, all over the walkways, completely covered in rust, but it's just really bleeding down the sides there. And that's done pretty much with oils, acrylic washes, and then fine powders to create that really dusty effect. On the ends, this is the cool part, no end reporting marks. How about that? I have no idea how this car has no end reporting marks, but even to this day when I saw it, no end reporting marks other than the old Cotton belt number. They only patched the sides. Very, very bizarre. But anyways, that's what I encapsulated on this car, and I thought that was really cool. It's a neat 3-hatch design there, and then on this other side, again, really fine rust streaking down the sides. Lots of intricate little bits of patchwork done, various stages. All the rust is weathered over there, blended together with the patchwork, as you can see. You can still see some of that Cotton belt lettering bleeding through. Patching was done with Smokebox Graphics decals, safety striping added, and then the underbody has all of the nice dusty effects, lots of grime on the trucks, wheels, of course, and all that quick lime powder just spilling down the side. It looks absolutely phenomenal. These next couple cars here are, again, brand new releases, and these are from Rapido. This is my only other set of completed Rapido rolling stock that I own now. I've had Rapido rolling stock in the past, I've mentioned this before, and I've never kept any of the cars that I've actually bought. These are the first cars I intend to keep and intend to use. And they're both special sodium chlorate hoppers. These are pretty well known. You used to see a lot of these out in Canada, Wisconsin. They make it out through Chicago and head east. And a lot of these are the Procore cars. There's some newer versions of these out now. There's a lot more modern versions, but these are kind of like the original style of cars that I grew up with, at least. I got to see these a lot, and I always wanted a pair of them. And Rapido really set the standard for high levels of detail on these cars. They came out with a pair of them, and they look super nice. I gotta say, the detail is exquisite. I love the detailing on the roof hatches, the walkways, all the end detailing and the brake detailing. The underbays look really nice. The truck detailing and everything else is great. All I really had to do with these cars in particular was try to model the really heavy rust, the oxidation that takes place on these aluminum slide cars. And the first task here was to airbrush grind the entire car body, top to bottom. Up here, ends, and then I cleaned off all the yellow trim parts for the most part first. Then once I sealed all that in, I then went in and did several layers of oil washes. I did the oil streaking effects, added the safety striping, added the placards, and then I did a final just an individual brush wash for each of the yellow portions of the car, because I wanted to weather those differently to the rest of the car. On the the ends here, on the underframe there, you can see there's a lot of kick-up splatter and things like that, normal weathering and wear that you see on these. The placards are installed, and then same thing on this end. On the opposite side here, there's a little bit of spillage. You see this white greasy spillage, or white plastery looking spillage that's just modeled with acrylic paint, as you can see. Really realistic, really nicely done. And you'll also take note of the side scrapes, side scratches. Let's take a look at that. You guys can see how I did that. That's just done with sandpaper. You rub it down the sides of the car, and it shows those little scratches and scrapes, and that's very prototypical for cars like these, because sides like this usually get scraped up very easily in these industries, and that was something I really wanted to focus on in these models. So that's the first one. The second one is a little bit heavier in terms of rust. You can see the rust washes are a lot heavier built up. I also tried to do some little areas of patchwork, or at least areas where maybe they removed some graffiti. You'll notice this area here where it looks like they take a rotary buffer and ground away some of the paint or something that was there, and what that is a graffiti patch out repair, where they just take a rotary buffer and they sand the graffiti away. I thought that was really cool. I actually did that with a silver Sharpie. It's a very easy technique to do. And then I of course have the fine scrapes. I have the rust streaking down from the walkway supports, placards installed, and then on this opposite side here we have a little bit more intricate patching. This is actual paint-on patching, where they did some kind of side repair or maybe another graffiti repair at a different time. And so I just replicated that from photos of a similar car, not the exact number, but a similar car, and then replicated that, painted it in, blended it in with the rest of the weathering to make it look a little bit more aged and diffused. And overall, again, these are exquisite models and ones that I've been looking for in the industry for quite some time, and I'm happy that Rapido really set the standard for a car like this. And honestly, I'm hoping that they do more cars like this that are unique and unusual, because these are the cars I definitely like. Now we're going to move on to some ACF Center Flow prototypes, and these are going to be kind of where I'm going to kick things off to end the video here. The first one I got is WLPX 60145. This is a car I had in storage and I didn't really know what to do with. And I've been seeing a lot of complex patch jobs, I should say, on the sides of these cars lately. And I decided I wanted to try to make a patch out car. So what I did here was I did some masking techniques, and I basically resprayed the entire area around the data, very similar to how they do it in real life. And I sprayed all that with Tamiya paints, removed the masking, and I was left with something like this. Then what I was able to do was go in and do some white washes down the sides to kind of fade the car body a little bit and give me this powdery streaked effect, as you can see all the way down the sides. Underbody kick up, lots of grime, grease, splatter, and everything like that. Nicely weathered trucks, safety striping is added. And then the roof is my favorite part. The roof has the nice, heavily peeled, very grimed up anti-skid coating all over the top. That's just done with oils and acrylics, and then you just blotch on a Q-tip and remove some of that paint. My tried and true technique for this. It's time consuming, but worth it in the end. The other side's a little bit more simplified. You can see it's just nice and clean. Straight plain gray covered hopper, safety striping, underbody weathering. Not much to say on the ends. You just got the kick up, the grime, and the interior there. Always nice to weather up these Atlas plastic pellet cars. These are always fun to do. That's the first one there. The second one, or rather these last three, are all going to be grain cars. These are ACF 5701s, also made by Atlas. The first one here is an AEX car, AEX 8736. This is, again, weathered to match photos of similar cars in service. This one has the really nice data patch outs there. I added all the little rust dots, all the side scrapes and dings, rust pitting and scratching, as you can see. Very heavily done on the sides. and that's all from the hammer impacts and little marks where they use vibrators and things. Then of course all the side scrapes are from when they were going through the elevators or the unloading industries, like they usually side scrape a lot of equipment and things like that during their unloading process. It's very common to see these scrapes all the way down the sides of the car. Heavy underbody grime, lots of pitting on the bays, dusty trucks grimed up there. And then on the roof there's a lot of heavy grain spillage and staining, as you can see. First it's a layer of rust, then it's a layer of this nice powdery black chalky grain streaking, which is just starting to kind of spill down the side of the car. And then on the other side here you got some graffiti, really nicely done graffiti, as you can see. Patching, safety striping added, all the rust pits. And the rust pits are definitely a little too coarse on this one, and that's just because I actually sprayed this car with dull coat after I had already done the Sharpie work. And the problem is that the gloss coat, dull coat, doesn't react too well to Sharpie ink, and it bled out a little bit. So the dots are definitely a little too big on this car, but it's still usable, it's still salvageable, and it still looks okay. It shows what's supposed to be there. I just kind of wish that was an accident I could have avoided, but that's what it is. Still a nice car, still looks really nice. I would like to do some more of these AEX cars, but I'm going to do ones that are actually custom patch jobs with the decals that I have. Really nice car though, as you can see. So that's the AEX green car. This next car here is an ADM 5701, and this is one of the gray painted cars that's been very heavily weathered. So with this car here, it's actually a different road, and I scraped off all the lettering and replaced the data, repatched it, and put ADM decals on this to pretty much model an exact prototype. Car number 90143, which I actually photographed in Fostoria, Ohio. I got reference photos for both sides, and I was able to copy the graffiti and all the data and the patching and everything from those photos, which was very helpful. So, how do I weather this thing? Well, the first thing I did was I faded it a little bit. I then did all of the heavy grime streaking and rust with some very heavy washes done with the burnt umber oil. I then did all of the grain streaking and spillage, some white streaks there, faded the ADM logo, did the patchwork. If we look at the sides here, you can see the patchwork, the way it was done, layered on, and then you got all the extensive rust streaking and damage to the sides, all the fine pits, which is done with the fine tip Sharpie, hand painted graffiti, faded ADM logo, new data and patchwork, all the grime on the underbody and the bays, all the pitting on the bays from the hammer, and then all the nice grime on the trucks. Lots of that fine streaking again. All that side scraping is very important on these ADM cars. And then if we zoom out here, let's switch to the other side now. On the other side of this car, we have again pretty much the same thing. We got all of the really nice rust and grime, all of the grime streaking down the sides from the grain spillage and streaking. Nicely faded ADM logos there. Safety striping added, new patching and data, and then you got the ADM patch there. But you can see that really nice color, a nice grimy ADM car. That was something I've never done before, and I really wanted to try it, and I think it turned out really good on this car. And again, there's the nice pitting, dot pitting on the sides, all the old graffiti blended together. And then on the top there, around the hatch, again, nice bit of grime, and then you got all the grain spillage and streaking, or rather those stains from the grain spillage, I should say. I thought about adding actual grain spillage to these, but then I decided to just model some cars where all the grain's been streaked off and it just has been left with the stains, basically. And patching, of course. And then on this end there, same thing. All that's done with custom decals from Circuit City Decals. This next car here is another ADM 5701, and it's one of the really rare blue cars. I used to see these all the time growing up, and I always wanted to model one, and recently around Christmas time a friend of mine gave me one of these for a present, and I was able to use this car for this prototype. So the 80165 was first faded down with a whitewash to tone down that bright blue color. I faded down the wash of the ADM logo a little bit, tried to make it look very deteriorated and kind of peeling and streaked up a little bit. So I did all that. Then I did a couple layers of grime washes, built up a lot of the grime and rust at the top around these walkway supports on the top sill there. Lots of rust and patchy rust kind of based on the center sill there. Lots of grime on the underbays, lots of dust from unloading, underbody grime and everything. Added the safety striping. The streaking on the sides is all hand painted with acrylics and then blended with oils. You got all the individual little rust pits and gouges and dings and things like that, which is either brush technique or fine tip Sharpie again. All of the data is custom patched, as you can see, and it's custom done with the Circuit City decals. Nicely faded ADM logo, like I said, and lots of very nice rust on the sides here. Very finely pitted. Some of these cars have very extreme damage on the sides. Some of the sides are completely caved in, and they're still actually in operation, which is crazy. But I just thought it was really unique. Something else unique on this car is the multi-hatch. There's a combination of the older hatches and then the newer. The newer hatches are all scratch built with styrene and spliced parts from the old hatch all together. So you can see I cut some of the sections of the old hatch out, saved those, and then modified my own to make it look like these are the older and newer kind of mixed together. And then again, it's all weathered together with lots of rust effects, all the grime stains and everything like that. Nicely peeled and dented up walkway. As you can see, there's some panels that are all dented up, which is really cool. On the opposite side here, a little bit more rust streaking, as you can see, but otherwise about the same in terms of weathering. Really nicely done patching on the sides, heavily done. Lots of grime on the top there as well. Lots of pitting, lots of scraping and side damage. Nicely faded ADM logo. Lots of peeling, lots of rust dots, as you can see. Very nicely done, lots of patchy rust and things like that. And you can see that rust is really just starting to kind of work down the side of the car very, very slowly over time. Starts to streak down from the walkway supports and raised areas and then work its way down the sides. But all that rust pitting, all that gouging just looks fantastic, and I was really happy that these turned out exactly like they did because I wanted a fleet of these cars, and slowly but surely coming together because I'm starting to get a nice little collection of these 5701s starting to kind of come together. Okay guys, so we're going to get you guys caught up on the layout now to kind of wrap this video up. And as of lately, I haven't done anything new to any of the additional sections over here. I have noticed a couple areas that need some repairs, some areas where the ballast is a little bit low. Areas like that where some places need some touch-up. I'm going to wait to do that until it warms up a little bit again. I'm not worried about it right now. But I will say having the heater out here has really prevented a lot of the damage that I saw, in particular like last year. And with the harsh winter that we had, we've definitely had a little bit more of a mild winter this year, but honestly it's been a good investment to have the heater working because it's been able to control the climate out here very well, even at the coldest points when we were running, I don't know, maybe even like almost -degree low temperatures. There's an area over here that I've noticed recently starting to rise up that might cause some issues. If you notice back here, the side track is starting to pop up right there at that joint. That's something we're going to have to probably address. So that's going to be something that I'm probably going to have to fix. Fortunately, it's not on the main line, otherwise that would be a lot more dire. But being that that's on the side track there, that is something I can wait to do. All this is held up really well. I haven't had any real issues over here. There is a little bit of a patch somewhere in this area over here where some ballasting needs to be touched up and addressed. But again, I'm going to wait to do a lot of that until later on. Right now all that's operational obviously, and then over here in this corner, this is where we had really finished up things. Kind of in the last video we were doing all the scenic work, all the ballasting and everything like that, getting things touched up and prepped for additional scenery to come later on. And as you can see, I've gotten all the code line done, all the weeds and everything, a little ballast pile, planted rails along the tracks. As you can see, through into this section here is where I've started recently. What I've been doing is laying ballast all throughout the yard tracks here. I then laid in the mainline ballast, as you can see. Got the tracks leveled off, as you can tell. I really was trying to do my best to make sure everything was nice and clean looking, especially on the mainline tracks, really trying to make sure the ballast is cleared off the ties and things like that. The yard tracks can look a little bit more sloppy. I like the rougher look of the yard tracks, so you have like these spaces where some of the ties are covered up or crooked or things like that. I like that overall look, but the main tracks I've really been trying to make sure they're as clean and nice and neat looking as possible, trying to make sure the track work is nice and tidy and clean. So that was really one of the big things over in this section. If you recall, I ended up having to change a lot of this track work around to get a proper track arrangement. Matter of fact, I think I came all the way out. I know I changed the switch out over here. A lot of this whole section ended up being retracked. And it was worth it in the end because the track gradient is a lot more clean and flat, unlike the first time around where it was like really random and kind of not so good. You can still see some humps in through here, but it's definitely not as bad as it used to be. There's the iconic look of the C&O yard. Like right when you enter the C&O yard, this is the scene that you see, and I modeled it perfectly. I'm very happy with it. The code line and all those nice details really give it away. I built up a little crossing grade crossing right here. Cross, that's just a maintenance of way access crossing. I added that once the track ballasting was done. And then for line side scenery, I matched all the terrain and things with some shrubs, Scenic Express bushes and things like that. Made my own code line sections and then laid in the wiring, as you can see, using different grades of spool wiring and things for the fiber optic cabling, the signal lines there. And then I installed the other D-type, CNO type signal there, as you can see, since this is the CNO yard. Installed that, got that in place. So all the CNO signals are in place for now. We're still pondering changing out this bridge to a CNO type CNO signal bridge, but future project for later. Right now I'm satisfied and I'm happy with the signaling thus far. The only other signal I gotta put in here is a dwarf in this section somewhere. I believe there's a dwarf along this yard track here, the main yard lead right along here. Somewhere in this section, it's right before the yard office. But all this has been ballasted. You can see the nice parking lot's all done. Again, you got all these scratch-built little structures. I built these all the way back in 2018. They've been waiting patiently to get used, and now they're finally securely in place and ready to get detailed up. All the rails done. Now, in terms of some other details, there's going to be some other junk and different little sections of junk kind of laying along the tracks here, and I'm working on that next. There's also going to be utility poles with lighting fixtures, and this comes to this scene here. Woodland Scenics makes the Just Plug lighting system, and I'm thinking about using some of these lights for the scene. They're relatively nicely detailed. I can extend them out a little bit, but I'm going to have to probably cut them to size, and I'm thinking of having these lights installed on the layout like this, so I can actually have these lit up and have some nighttime operations, for example, back here in the CNO yard with some of the lit area. Just along this yard, it makes some really fun night switching operations, for example. That's always something I love to do on my old layout, even though I didn't have lighting. It's a really cool scene, and I should really try to take advantage of this. Now that I'm in this final stage, there's just a lot of little things that I want to do, and being that I've given this lots of time and it worked slowly, I've been able to think about stuff like this. So I'm going to be going to a train show called Timonium. That's going to be in Maryland here this week, actually, this weekend. And I'm going to be going up to that, and I'm going to hopefully get some Just Plug wiring equipment so I can actually get these plugged in underneath the layout. I'll keep it nice and tidy. We got plenty of room to play with, as you can see, to run wiring and everything else. So we'll be able to actually plant some lighting, have this lit up, and then that leads us into this scene over here. We're already starting to prep this section, and I've already started to ballast up the main tracks here, as you can see. Sorry about that. Very rough. I ended up running out of ballast there. That's why it looks so crappy. But right now I'm working on getting the main track here ballasted, as you can see. So we're working on this whole section here. This will get done up. And then I got this switch and the switch point cleared off for the most part, since it's ready to get glued down. And then I already have one of the new switch stands assembled and ready to go. And then for the parking lot, I got to get that painted, and then the yard office is, again, patiently waiting its turn to be installed on the layout permanently. So it'll be positioned about like that, right there at the lot. The switch stand will be right there. It's actually a little bit more farther back, so it's something more like this, and then this will be some gravel, and then more of the parking lot running through. This will be a parking lot in the back. There'll be a nice tree section here. And then again, I'm probably going to cut out a section of this where all this junk is lying around. This is going to probably get modified because there's nothing there in real life other than bridges, and I don't really want to have to try to fill this in with a flat grassy field or trees. I want this to look like a big industrial scene. So that's what I'm going to kind of try to go with here. But anyways, you can see I've pretty much got this curve turnout prepped. And then once all that done, then this will lead into dealing with all this garbage. Having to go in and fix that. But again, that's a project for later. Trying to finally decide what I want to do with this. But the level here is so bad here. Like, this whole table has just sunk down so bad. It's going to take a heck of a lot of work. And again, I'm still even contemplating doing an entirely new table section because this one warped pretty good, and it would take a lot of work to raise this track bed up and level it back out. It would be a lot of work. Can be done, but don't really want to do it. And as you can see, this section, completely unacceptable. This is in no position to run trains right now at this particular turnout. Large separation gap. I can literally stick my finger in there. This is expanded quite a bit, so this is the really bad section. This is going to need to get addressed. So I'm going to probably work all the track ballast and things like that up to this point, through this turnout here, stop, and then change all this out for the last time, hopefully, and get that addressed, because it is pretty bad in that turnout. It's not operable right now with its current condition. It's going to need to get fixed. All this out here is fine. All this is held out fine. Obviously the curves are a little tight, but I'm still able to run all of my EMDs fine. All these guys turn around just fine on the layout, but it's that section that needs to get addressed. So all going to come in time, but as you can see, I am making some really good progress. I'm really happy to finally see this whole yard section coming across, coming together. So much work here and so much time, so much money and effort, but I'm really starting to see that pay off, and we're so close to actually being done with the layout now. So it's getting exciting, it really is, and I'm really happy to share this progress with you guys. So I'll keep you guys updated on this, of course. I might make a separate video later on when this is all completed, and I'll show you guys some of the detail effects. I will probably try to put some lighting on this building as well, and inside, in particular in this section here, for the lighting on the doorway, and then possibly in this corner office by the tracks. Maybe get some lighting in there, so we'll see. But guys, that's going to pretty much wrap up this update for now, and I want to thank you all for watching and following me in this new year here. We're going to have some exciting projects coming out this month. Like I said, I'm finishing editing a couple more weathering videos together, and I'll have some other little how-to videos coming out soon. So thank you for watching, guys. Subscribe here on YouTube for more content, and we will see you in the next video here. Take it easy, guys.